Monday Scrum.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Monday Scrum, joined by Brent Read and Benji Marshall. I tell you what, it is not a great day to be a Queenslander, is it? How you feeling, Ready?
Talking to me?
Well, either of you.
Well, it's 1-1. It's 1-1. We go to a third game at the Cauldron.
Yeah.
Good luck up there.
I know.
Could be worse. Could be over, but it's not. We're alive.
The winner is rugby league.
Always the winner's rugby.
Who wants it to be a dead rubber?
Benji's a Queenslander too.
I am, but I actually did think New South Wales were going to win that
did,
game.
yeah.
I did. But I reckon it's better. Better for the game. It's 1-1 now. Go to Queensland. And we'll talk about it later, but last time this happened, we all know the result.
Yes.
Well, it was an epic night for the Blues. Let's relive the best moments.
Triple M Rocks State of Origin. Game highlights.
West Coast Origin begins. It's game number 2. Kafusi goes for the line. Kafusi scores. On to Cleary. Pumps it a kick. Burton takes it and scores. That is a bit of Nathan Cleary magic. Oh, they're having a night. He goes straight through Kane. Inside pass to home. Gets it up to Munster. Goodbye. There's got to be a sin there. Yes. Release Kafusi. Part for the line. He got there. It did not take New South Wales long to take advantage of the one extra man. Now comes across to Cleary. Floating pass away to Tupa. They're in the blue. Away to Luai. Luai doesn't like what he sees, so he runs down the middle. Beats one, beats another and scores. That's wonderful vision from Jerome Luai. Comes to Cleary. Left foot step and scores. Cleary goes again and scores. Nathan Cleary now is killing Queensland. He's got a quick fire double. Crichton now back to the obstruction. He throws here. There's a effort here. It comes to Enders Crichton, who strolls over, but there was a player. What a play. And that is it. A thoroughly dominant Blues smash it. 44-12.
Yeah, so the changes that Freddie made well and truly paid off. Some said that he'd panicked, but clearly...
Mild state of panic.
Mild, that's
Necessary
okay.
state of panic, though, I would
I
say.
saw your tweet today, actually, Reedy.
Well, what annoys
did
me...
you say?
I can't even remember what I said, but I know what annoys me. What annoys me is when people say, there were people suggesting, apparently, that Freddie couldn't coach. Well, it didn't come from the media. I didn't hear anyone in the media say that Freddie couldn't coach. Nathan Cleary, people said Nathan Cleary got bagged. You know who bagged Nathan Cleary? Nathan Cleary bagged Nathan Cleary and said he wasn't good enough. So, people...
You sound a bit defensive here.
Well, I don't like the way the media gets blamed for this, sometimes for this stuff when it's not the media who bring it on. It was brought on by... Sometimes we do.
Sometimes. On this
Sometimes we
occasion,
do.
I agree with you,
You agree with
because I believe most journalists I read or heard were saying that he made some incorrect selections.
Yes. And
But we're not bagging Freddie's coaching.
no, bagging the selection of the side for game 1. And the fact that they turned around and did what they did in game 2
It justifies it a bit.
justifies the fact that he got the side wrong in game 1, does it not? And the preparation wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to bag a coach, though, and you're right. Like, he's done pretty well. 3 out of the last 4 series and done phenomenal, And I think the selections, especially the Jake Trbojevic ones, Matt Burton and the centres, changes that because they were outstanding. Like, Jake Trbojevic for me is someone, watching that game last night, Jake Trbojevic is a legend. Apart from being the nicest guy in the NRL, you know what he does? He does his job, and he played long minutes last night and just does his job cleaning up the middle. Doesn't get all the raps that he deserves, doesn't come up with the big plays. But when you're playing next to guys in big games that you can trust, Jake's a guy you can trust. And I reckon last night, a lot of his work around the ruck, defensively especially, you can't see it like on tape, but as a player playing next to him, you know what he's done. And I reckon all the boys playing next to him would have realised his impact. He was outstanding.
Well, I read a stat that he went for the most metres by any New South Wales forward. Is that right? I'm just checking it now. But
yeah, he was pretty high. He was, I can tell you right now, 124 metres. That's the highest of any forward apart from Junior Paulo on the bench.
So he had a good game, didn't he?
Game.
So everyone was saying that
one.
he's not there for his metres. Well, look at it.
I know.
Well, Freddie said before game 1, that was the one he obviously left Fox out, but he said Jake was the toughest call to make. So it's all right. He's obviously put his hand up and said, I got it wrong. A forced change, really, with Jack Whiten. But let me ask you this now. Latrell Mitchell will most likely be available for game 3.
And Jack Whiten will be available.
And Jack Whiten will have recovered from COVID. Matt Burton absolutely killed it. Stephen Crichton didn't do anything wrong. What you can't leave Latrell out.
So just quickly, does the team get selected after this weekend's
Yes.
game again?
Yes.
And they miss next week's game?
Yes.
Well, the problem for Latrell's going to be is there's only going to be one game back. And is that going to be enough match fitness to decrease the risk of injury for him to go back and play at that level? That's probably the biggest thing. But regardless, if it is about that and he's sweet to play, I think you got to find a place for him. It's going to be hard, but I'd be putting him in somewhere.
Well, Benji, I mean, I don't think you can get rid of Matt Burton now, right? He was
so what,
good.
is Crichton the casualty?
It's a hard
playing
one.
right centre for Latrell, could he?
He could do
How
it,
easy
mate.
is that?
He could play anywhere, you know, and he could do it easily, I reckon. But the other part of it is how do you change a winning side and who won so convincingly? Like they've almost earned the right to get the opportunity again, barring injury, to be selected off the back of that, you know. But I don't know. Latrell's just such a game breaker, and at that level, always stands up. So
it's
a tough
almost
one.
as if you'd say you don't change a winning side, but the exceptions are someone like Turbo or Latrell.
Yeah. Well, I'd bring Jack Whiten back as well. Actually, I'd put him on the bench for Sifa Talakai. I think he could play. Jack's big enough, physical enough. I reckon he could play as an edge back row if he had to.
So you still have Cookie and Whiten on the bench.
Well,
Yep.
I think that worked good.
Yep.
The Cook Coruscant thing.
Yep.
Cook had a lot more spark, didn't have to make as many tackles through the middle, and came on and just did the job. You know, and I thought Uppy to start the game was outstanding.
He was outstanding, yeah.
Yeah, like that first 20 minutes, you can't underestimate how hard that is, you know, and it looks like it's just a grind. But when you're out there, that impact that he made, like I thought that was big for the Blues.
Well, it's going to be a tough job. New South Wales haven't won a decider up there since 2005.
You give me hope, Em. You give me hope.
And Freddie knows that there's a big job ahead. This is what he had to say straight after the game.
How big is the challenge of, I know had a lot of success up there last year, but it wasn't at Suncorp. They're a different team, aren't they?
Well, it's 1-1.
Yeah.
So as good as that was, it's 1-1. Simple as that. It's the end of it. We're playing at Suncorp and we've only won once here in 4 years, so that's it. And give ourselves a chance.
So it's going to be tough. As for Queensland, few injury concerns to come out of that one for them. Cameron Munster had ice on his shoulder at the end. Reedy, any word on how he is?
Not yet, because they flew straight from Perth to Brisbane, I think, last night after the game in a private jet. And Melbourne is still waiting for him to get back to Melbourne to assess him. But I understand he'll have a scan today on that shoulder. And hopefully he's okay. Fingers crossed he is, because, I mean, I'm not sure what their alternative is if he's out.
Ben Hunt.
Ben Hunt at 6, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, regardless, like, you know, obviously a couple of years ago, what happened off the back of New South Wales winning Game 2, going to Queensland and losing to the worst Queensland team ever, that one with Wayne, like, I think New South Wales have to be careful again, like this time. Obviously, they won well, but if you look at Game 1, Queensland won pretty well in Game 1. New South Wales were gone. Then this one, New South Wales won pretty well. Game 3 in Queensland is always tough and always different. So you can't go there thinking, oh, we won the last game. You know, we're just going to go there and turn up and it's going to happen. Because if you look at the first half last night, Queensland dominated most of it and were in control, I reckon, for a fair chunk of it until the sin bin.
The sin bin.
And was it a sin bin?
Yes and no. That's the easy answer. I can see why.
No, I want one answer.
I can see why. I can see why it was, because there was repeated infringements where I felt like if they don't be watching it live, I felt like if they don't be careful, someone's going to go to the bin. And that was my exact thought. As soon as Kiwis held him down, I think he's going to get binned, and he did. So, yeah, I think it was fair.
Well,
You're going to say no.
I'm going to say I don't think it was fair, but I don't think it mattered. Because
But
there's
did not
no,
take-
Why
not
did it not matter?
That
because
took the
there's no
gas out of
excuse
them.
for the way they capitulated in the second half.
Well, there
for
is,
me.
mate.
No, I don't think that's an excuse. I know they had 10 minutes without a player bench, but the way they fell off tackles,
But not in that 10 minutes when he was gone.
no. But
'Cause
after that, they just fell apart.
Well, at halftime, Billy spoke and he said, I just want them to work as hard as they can for 9 minutes and see what happens. And they worked hard for 9 minutes.
did.
And you can't underestimate how much sting was taken out of them by that, how much possession went against them, how much defense they did. And in the back end, that fatigue cost them. That hurt them. I thought at the end, for defending under fatigue like that, that's what happens. You make decisions that you don't usually make when you're not feeling as tired.
Yeah, okay.
You can.
It did cost them. No, it didn't. No,
Well, I
no,
felt
I
like
don't think it did. I think that, I think it's a line ball decision on whether he gets sin binned. But I think ultimately the way they fell apart in the second half, yes, that probably contributed to it. But I think that, there's no excuse for that in Origin. You can't. For all the fatigue and all the extra effort it took, there's no excuse for what happened in that final 20 minutes where blokes just fell off one-on-one tackles. There were gaps everywhere.
Yeah, I actually thought there were signs of that in game one in the last 20 because New South Wales were coming the last 20 in game one and probably didn't have the same class that they had last night to make those same breaks. So I don't know. I think it's something that Queensland need to address is the last 20.
Billy should show them the last 20 and
both games.
Embarrass them before this third game.
Ooh.
Fire them up.
I don't know. Is that going to work though? Because I thought
I don't know. It's worth a try.
Remember what Wayne did last time when they got beaten comfortably? He was laughing and joking with them like, doesn't matter, and kept them all relaxed going into the next game and changed the whole stigma straight away from going, that was terrible, to, you know what, let's go back game 3 and don't worry about that. Because in game 1, they were dominant.
Yeah. I agree. I think the gap in game 1 was more significant than the scoreline.
Yeah.
Well,
that try just before halftime last night was so
was
important.
A killer.
So important for New South Wales. If they go into halftime down, it could have been a different game because I thought Queensland dominated the first half. I thought they were lucky to be leading at halftime.
So, Reedy, you mentioned the word embarrassment. A few of those words were thrown around in the media conference to Billy Slater.
Is that an embarrassment for Queensland?
Geez, they're big words, and it's a lot of titles and headlines that media like to put on certain performances, but the reality is that's what happened. That was the scoreline, and looking at my teammates, there's not one person that didn't try their hardest out there tonight, and again, I can't question the effort that we put out there.
Look, going back on the embarrassment thing, Queensland will be proud of their team. They put in a whole heap of effort. The series will go back to Brisbane. That's not going to win us the game. That's not going to help us unless we fix up these concentration errors. But they tried really hard. You can't fault their effort. And Queensland's always been about effort, so they'll stick together, Queensland.
There we go. A few concerns actually for New South Wales. Payne Haas in a moon boot. And Damien Cook. Did he get charged?
He got charged, but it was he just got a fine him. So he got 7% of his match fee or something. So
7%.
Drop in the ocean for Cookie. I think that's what it was, yeah.
He wouldn't like that. He loves his
game. Is he a tight ass? Is he?
That fine's going to hurt him. I think he'd rather take the week.
Do you think Queensland make any changes bench? Maybe look at a Corey Oates maybe coming in on the wing or because the wingers
for Tuilagi?
The wing, Selwyn.
He was actually okay.
Selwyn didn't have a great
right.
Selwyn had a few errors in him.
Yeah, but that's
night.
what happens though. Like when the whole team is getting beaten up like they are, like those players have a little bit less impact. So I don't think he'll make too many changes. Queensland have this thing of picking and sticking, and it's worked out pretty good for him.
They missed Ruben Cotter, sorry. I think they really missed him in that game.
Is he any chance?
I don't think so. I don't think he'll be
They
back.
originally said 4 weeks, which, I mean...
He'd be pushing it. Yeah, I don't think he'll be back. So I think we missed him last night. Well, Queensland, not we.
No,
sorry.
You've got to be a neutral reporter
impartial,
here.
Always impartial, yeah.
All right, okay. So there's plenty else to dissect. We had international footy. There's coaches that are moving around, but it is time for this.
Benji Marshall. Benji Marshall. Oh, Benji Marshall. Marshall's Law.
Yeah, thanks, Em. Well, look, from the weekend, I watched very closely all the international games, and we're going to talk about those games a lot later, but there were so many great things to come out of those games. Like, I'll start with the New Zealand game. I thought that was the best spine New Zealand's ever put together. And that whole international day, I reckon it was like the team that had the halves that could control the game and have good kicking games won all of the occasions. I thought Jerome Hughes and Dylan Brown did a fantastic job against Tonga and their kicking game versus, no disrespect to Talatau Amone and Katoni Staggs, but they're not really halves who control the game. If Tonga find a 7 and someone who can put them in good positions, manage the game, kick and do all those things, I think they're going to be a big threat at the World Cup. That's probably just what they were lacking against the Kiwis. In the Fijian game, I thought Kevin Nagama playing in the halves, hasn't played a lot there. But for PNG, they had Lockie Lamb, who was outstanding. He had a phenomenal game, probably the best player on the field. With Kyle Laybutt, their kicking game was outstanding. And in the last game, somehow, like with Anthony Milford and Chanel Harris-Tavita, again, like those halves, they all won the game. And off the back of it's so important to have good halves in today's game and be able to control the game, kick well. And all the best teams at the top of the competition probably do have the best halves in the comp. You look at Melbourne, they got Hughes and Munster. You look at Penrith, the guys from last night, Luai and Nathan Cleary. So it's just saying how important it is to have great halves. But one of the biggest things I liked out of international round was one of the youngsters from Fiji who was playing fullback, Sunir Taruva, who is backup fullback at the Panthers. And unfortunately for him, he's not going to get a start because Dylan Edwards is so consistent and goes so well. But his performance on the weekend, if there's NRL clubs, scouts that were watching, which they probably were.
Got a story on him, Benj, actually.
Have you?
The Dolphins tried to sign him. Very close to getting him.
No way.
Very, very close to getting him.
Mate,
They thought they had him.
He's a star.
They thought they had him. And he...
Really?
Yeah.
He just re-signed with the Panthers, correct? And is it correct that they've told Charlie Staines that he can look elsewhere because they see this kid as a potential backup either at fullback or on the wing whenever there's an injury in the back line, that they've now put him ahead of Charlie Staines?
Well, he probably vindicated it, didn't he, the way he played at the weekend. I think Charlie came out the other day, I think it said he's committed to Penrith, but I thought he was pretty good actually at the weekend as well, so I'm sure some clubs will take a look at him. But that kid was the Dolphins actually thought they had him on the dotted line.
I'd be signing him up. The way he attacked the footy in the air, like defensively, on all the bombs, not many fullbacks in the game now do that. A lot of them stand and catch. He went and attacked everything, jumping, running forward, which is pretty hard to do. His involvement, like he had 25, 26 carries or something, for almost 200-something metres, phenomenal. And I thought he was the best player on the field in a losing team, so full credit to him as a kid. Unbelievable. I just love what he did. And someone to look out for in the future, I reckon, a star.
What about New Zealand then? 26-6 over Tonga. Do you think they are a genuine threat for Australia at the World Cup?
Well, it's funny you say that because New Zealand are number 1 in the world. Ranked. Australia's number 3.
They
believe
are
it or not.
at the moment.
So is Australia a threat to New Zealand? I think
That's the
what
question.
Benji said.
Yeah, that should be the question. But genuinely, I think New Zealand are the biggest threat at the moment. And just talking about the spine, I genuinely believe that's probably our best spine we've put together on paper. But the way they combined on the weekend, I thought that's the best combination of players coming together that I've seen. Jerome Hughes, outstanding again. Dylan Brown for a debut was phenomenal. Brandon Smith, without being spectacular, did his job and was great. And Joseph Manu.
400 metres.
398. He just needed 2 more. Idiot. Run 2 more metres. But, seriously, though, he's in the Roosters at centre. They've got James Tedesco.
It almost feels like he's wasted at centre,
well,
doesn't
no.
it? Yeah.
And then they've got Joseph Suwali, who's probably the next fullback in line. And then Joey Manu's third best fullback at the Roosters. How?
And that Kiwi side will get Jared. Jared will come in. Chance Nickel start potentially.
Yeah, I think
So
we
it'll get
need
better.
some centres back in there. Yeah, for sure. But Australia are always going to be good and always going to be dangerous. But I think New Zealand are a massive chance.
The future is looking good, particularly given that Dylan's still quite young.
Yeah.
Jerome and Joey Manu, they've got a few years ahead together with
Brandon
that same
Smith's
spine.
not that
So
old.
yeah,
So they're looking good.
Yep, they are.
Looking good.
there we go.
Sorry, I forgot to say about my mate David Mead from
Oh,
PNG.
yeah.
Great
What a
story.
Great way to. He's still got it though. I know he said he wants
Yeah.
to give the younger ones coming through a chance,
Yeah.
but can you convince him to change his mind and play on at the World Cup?
I said to him, look, you'd be the first player, I reckon, to ever play in 4 World Cups if you go. And his answer is typical David fashion. He just said, I got my first opportunity at a World Cup because one of the older players pulled out and gave me my chance. I wasn't supposed to play. And he felt like, he's been around and done it for so long that he wants to give one of the kids a chance that he got to live out his dream of playing for PNG and playing so many games. And, it's phenomenal what he's done for his country. And, I just wanted to say congratulations to David. He had a great career for his country, PNG.
Yeah, it's nice for him to get a try as well.
Yeah.
Justin Olam was also.
What a freak. So good.
That kick for Lockie Lamb, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, move over Munster. Put Olam
Well
in
done.
5'8"
It
Queensland.
was a really good display of footy, and I think all round in terms of the display of culture we saw, and at Mount Smart Stadium in particular, first game in almost 3 years that they've had there. So
Yeah.
got the West Tigers game over
and
there
the emotion
soon.
of some of those guys too. Josh
Schuster was crying. Yep. It was really beautiful.
Brandon Smith was in tears as well, wasn't he, when the anthem was on? So it's a great weekend. It's a shame we won't see it next year, isn't it? I mean, it's gone next year because Origin's back to Wednesday night. So I think we're going to miss it in the calendar.
Surely there's room to bring back that Anzac test, though, New Zealand versus Australia. Something.
No, I don't think so. Not the new TV deal, Benj.
Yeah, TV schmeevy.
You took all the money.
Yeah, that's right. They've got to pay you something.
So look,
But I reckon, I know it's not back next year, but I reckon we need to look at it somehow down the track. We need to incorporate that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's so good for the game.
All right, I tell you what, perhaps is not so good for the game is all this coaching merry-go-round. Or gives us something to talk about
Plenty
at
to
the very
talk
least.
about.
So
Yeah.
Cameron Ciraldo has knocked back that offer from the West Tigers. Who do they look at now, Reedy?
Oh, they've got options, Em. Plenty of options, actually. I mean, obviously, guys like Shane Flanagan and Paul Green, premiership
love
winners,
Flano.
they're out there. Well, I love Greeny too. I think the two coaches have done a really good job in the past, and they're probably not getting the respect they deserve at the moment, I don't think. You've got John Morris, obviously, in the mix there. He's got a relationship with Tim Sheens. He played for the club. They're the three sort of front. Christian Wolf's the other guy at St Helens who's had great success.
Someone
in
tossed
England.
up Todd Payton. I saw a written.
Well, that's been doing the rounds at Toddy that they might have a lash.
He won't leave.
But
Why would he leave what he's doing?
Well, he's got
there?
another year left in his contract up there, and I'd find it hard to believe they'd let him go. And he's put a lot of work in up there. So you're right.
I also think the fact that the Tigers let him go.
He's very close with Tim, though, isn't he? I think, Benj, from all reports. So that's, I think, where it's coming from. Is that they obviously played at the place and has a great relationship with
But
Tim
look what he's
Sheens.
doing at the Cowboys. Though.
Yeah,
How
he's
can
been
he-
outstanding. But, it's not a time to panic for the Tigers. I know they've missed out in Cameron, but there's alternatives out there, plenty
What
of
is
them.
What does it say about the Tigers? Not to be too critical,
You
but
wouldn't even thought then,
that's
were you?
a 5-year deal.
Yep.
Someone who would just be handed this on a platter, 5 years, solid money, your first crack, and he says no. What does that say about the Tigers?
Well, I just think it says a bit about him that he doesn't want to jump in somewhere where maybe he's not certain he's going to succeed, I guess, initially. Maybe he just wants to take his time. I mean, obviously there's talk about Canterbury sniffing around him as well. Maybe he finds the Canterbury job more appealing. Penrith are going to speak to him this week about extending him for one more year as an assistant. I just decided he wasn't ready. I don't know why Cameron hasn't taken the job. I can only guess that, I think he was really impressed with the Tigers and this, he visited with them. He spoke to the officials there. I don't think you'll hear him say a bad word about the club. I think he was really impressed with the footy club and with the people who were at the footy club. But I just think he decided it wasn't for him.
What about our great mate Michael Chammas floated Brad
what
Arthur?
about this one?
Thoughts on that?
It was a bit left field. Particularly when Brad's trying to win a premiership at the moment, and he's at a club that's on the verge of potentially winning a title. It would be a strange time to agree to go to another club and pack up your bags and leave. It was a bit left field for Mick. But he is a left field thinker.
He is.
He's a very left field sort of guy.
Well, we've seen some left field things happen in the game over the years, so you don't know.
I mean, I think his view was that there'd be a job, if Brad was to leave, he'd get a long-term deal at the West Tigers. But that would require him upping and leaving from Parramatta, a club that's, as I said, on the verge of... And if you're Parramatta and Brad Arthur turns around to you in next month and says, I'm going to go to the Tigers, you know what I'd be saying to Brad Arthur? Take a hike, pal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you're not going to derail your season like that, though. That's got the potential, especially like you said, on the verge of potentially winning. Now, you're not going to do that now.
No.
As
in he's not?
No,
or they
he
not?
wouldn't.
Yeah, he wouldn't. No, I don't think.
Okay, so if you were a betting man and you had to say by the end of the week...
End of the week?
No. Well, I know they're going to take their time, but if you were a betting man and you had to say by the end of today you had to put your money on someone, who would it be?
I reckon I'd have joint favourites. Can I have joint favourites?
Yeah,
Sure,
I've
okay.
got joint favourites too.
Yeah. Flano and Christian Wolf.
Ooh, I was going to say Flano and John Morris
Oh, and John Morris, yeah.
as my favourites.
Kind of triple. And,
No,
and
no.
Paul Green.
No
4
way, no.
favourites. Equal
No,
favourites.
Yeah,
You're going to have three of the four blokes you
get
mentioned.
off the fence.
Okay.
Anyway,
sorry.
let's hope you're off the fence in your mail segment.
Reedy's Mail.
Look, my mail this week's all about guys coming back. Confirmed as coming back. And guys who are missing. Firstly, Kalen Ponga. Got the head knock last night. Apparently got cleared once he left the field in the HIA, but he was ruled out of the game straight away by the bunker. It was a Category 1. But apparently when he got off the field, he got cleared. But as a result of that, he will not play for the Knights on Friday night. But he should be right for Origin 2, Kalen Ponga. He's had a couple of concussions now. I spoke to his dad, earlier today, and his dad, Andre. And Andre said, look, we're going to have a chat when he gets back, just because he's had a couple of head knocks now and how we handle this going forward. I mean, it's not a time to panic or anything, but he did say, we just got to have a chat about it. But look, Kalen will definitely miss Friday night.
Big loss for them.
But he should be right for Origin 3 in, 2.5 weeks' time. So
you'd want to hope so.
Yeah.
He wears a headgear too, eh?
He does, but the headgear does nothing, Benji.
Oh, really?
And why
Does
wear
nothing.
it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a psychological thing.
Might
But
be
I think
yeah.
testing's proven the headgear actually does nothing to protect you from concussions, because it's all about your brain being bouncing around your skull, right? Well, headgear doesn't stop that happening.
Jeez.
So, I think he does it more because it's something he's always done. So it's a bit like JT, right? I mean, JT wore headgear, so he just kept wearing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan Pappenhausen, he will be
Is he
named.
back?
He is back. He'll be
He's
named
back,
in the Melbourne
baby.
side
That's massive,
tomorrow.
eh?
Well, particularly if Munster's out.
Well, it's massive for them regardless. Yeah, I don't think they've looked the same side without him. Before he left, he was probably almost the best player in the game the way he was playing. His form was phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, he was leading the Dally
He was
M's
almost
bench.
still leading the point scoring too up until last
So
week.
interesting. He's another guy who would have been in the mix for Origin as that utility player off the bench. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's probably not going to be there now given the way they went in Origin 3, but it gives a chance for... It wouldn't surprise me if he came back and played and Freddie included him in the extended squad just to give him a taste of
he
it and
probably
be around the
will
side.
do that.
Yeah. And that's what he might do with Latrell. We were talking about Latrell earlier. Maybe he's not the team, but he's around the team in the 22-man squad.
Latrell would be a good person just to have around
would.
anyway. I think some of those young ones looking across and thinking, I'm with Latrell, like a genuine superstar of the game.
Yeah, and he raises the level at training too, Latrell.
Another one who's coming back this week, Luke Keary.
Oh.
Will be
Wow.
back from the concussion this week, I expect.
That's good.
Yeah. I think they train later today, but the expectation is that Luke Keary will be back.
Yeah, that's good because it was a little bit of a touchy time for him.
Yeah.
Obviously people were assuming the worst when he went down with that head knock the other week. So that's great. It's great to hear because he's I thought that he was playing his best game of footy. That game went up until he got hurt. That first half was the best he's played, I reckon. So big
Is
news.
Victor back soon?
Well, I didn't check that one, but I
Okay,
assumed
sorry.
given he
Sorry,
was in, given he was
shouldn't
in,
have put you on the spot.
given he was in Perth, I
Yeah,
would have thought he's pretty close, isn't he, Victor?
yeah,
I
it's
think
just
it
that he
was-
hadn't played yet. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he's right.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
does anyone know why they picked him still? Is it
I
just to
think
be
it's just
around the
because
squad?
Good vibes.
Good
Right.
vibe, yeah.
And they said that he, again, like you said with Latrell, really lifted the intensity at training and was,
Good juju.
smashing. Yeah,
And
smashing
one
bloke.
more. Well, this one's an interesting one. Actually, got a lot of attention last week. Luke Brooks and whether he will be named in the West Tigers side tomorrow.
Yeah.
The latest mail is that I expect him to play. So there was a lot of talk that he'd be.
Where did that
gone.
come from? Was that Buzz?
No, it was Jimmy Hooper. And I think last week there was they were genuinely mulling over whether to pick him or not. I think he might have been out. Last week maybe he was out of the side. But the indications I was sort of getting today were that potentially that may have shifted a little bit. But again, we'll have to wait until tomorrow on that one. But
Pascoe spoke at the end of last week and said that it was
Justin Pascoe?
Yes, Justin
West
Pascoe.
Tigers CEO?
Yes.
Yes.
Justin Pascoe spoke and said that was rubbish.
I don't know. I don't think it was rubbish. I think there was some mail going around that Luke Brooks wouldn't be picked.
He didn't use the word rubbish. He
Yeah.
said it's not true.
Okay, right.
Added a bit of salt and pepper to
Yeah,
that.
you did, didn't you? No, I think last week that there was a genuine chance he was going to be dropped. I don't think Hoop said he was out of the team. I think he said they were considering dropping him. But the sort of indications I was getting earlier today were that potentially he wouldn't be dropped, that he would be part of the squad. So,
But is he starting?
well, I can't answer.
That's then
I
you
don't
dropped.
know. Well, no, it's not. If you're in the 17.
Oh, if you're on the bench, it's,
yeah, that's not dropped.
that's still.
He's
Yeah.
been changing his role a bit this year, though. They've played him a little bit at hooker as
Yeah.
well. I think he's just a half, like an out-and-out half, and you just play people in their positions and back him.
So do you move Hastings?
Well, I thought they signed Hastings to play lock.
I think that was the plan, Bench, that it was going to be Brooks and Dewey in the halves and Hastings at lock.
So I wouldn't mind seeing how that
Well, they did
combination
it
works.
against Canterbury, but they only did it for like 2 or 3 minutes because then,
with Dewey.
yeah,
Oh,
there was
right.
a head knock.
Didn't Brooks go to hooker?
No, they were in the halves together.
Oh,
It was
okay.
only when someone went off for a head knock, so Dewey
Yeah.
had to move in the centres. But the big question over Luke Brooks is what happens. Obviously we
After
talked
now.
about the Tigers coach. I mean, that's the biggest decision that Tigers coaches, the new guys, got, is what he does with Luke Brooks at the end of this season and whether he keeps him around.
The whole squad, really, because I know they opened up the books to Serraldo and showed him that there were a lot of people coming off contract and an opportunity to have the roster that he wanted. So it'd be interesting whoever's the next coach to see what they want to do. But I think that place just needs someone who's going to believe in the players and someone who's going to give them the confidence every week. And at the moment, I think they need to find, like they talked about finding a coach that can bring all the juniors through. Because I did a bit of coaching with the juniors and there's some great young kids coming through, but the challenge is keeping them. So whoever the coach is now has to be good at junior retention and being able to nurture them through, but also like attracting players to the club for whoever's coming.
All right. Anything else, or we done?
No, that's it.
Well done.
Thanks.
A great segment. It's also a good week.
That was really sincere.
No, I always love your work. It's the highest clicked segment on Triple M
We
NRL.
say that. Is that actually fact?
I don't know.
What's the good week for?
It's Beanie for Brain Cancer Round.
Yes.
So it's the 6th edition of the Beanie for Brain Cancer Round. And because of all the money they've raised over the past couple of years, they've just announced today the Mark Hughes Foundation and the University of Newcastle in partnership are opening up a Centre for Brain Cancer Research, a $25 million centre.
That's amazing.
So it's going to go a long way. So the survival rates in 30 years have only increased by 1%. So they have hardly made any inroads. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that they don't get a lot of funding. So they get less than 5% of all of the federal government funding for cancer research.
You're pretty involved in this, aren't you?
Yes, I'm doing the walk starting on Wednesday.
With your dodgy hips?
Yeah. Oh, God help me. I don't know how I'm going to get through it.
How far you got to go?
150 kilometres a day.
Oh, my God.
How many days?
3. So 150 Ks.
You're good at maths.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know if you heard the first bit. I'm thinking, are you dumb?
How are you going to go? How are you going to hold up?
Yeah, I struggled with the last one.
Yeah.
The blisters was the worst part.
Yeah, but it's hard to feel sorry for you.
Why?
Because what you're doing it for.
I know, it's for a good cause. Yeah, exactly.
Can I sponsor you?
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, you know what
send me the
else
link.
you can do too? Go and buy some beanies because I know you get them for free.
No. Always. My wife buys them.
So do I.
Yeah.
You can go to IGA. You can go to markhughesfoundation.com.au.
Send me the link. I'll sponsor you.
Okay.
A couple of bucks, $2.
Send it to me too.
50, mate.
Send it to me too.
$50.
Benji, he's the man. He'll get you $400,000. He'll just ring a few people.
Yeah, look, those
well
days
done.
are over.
We haven't spoken.
we haven't.
Congratulations. I know you don't want to talk about it, but
No, we're good.
congratulations. Celebrity
All right,
Apprentice
see you
winner.
next week.
And who's on your show tonight?
The great Joseph Manu
Ooh.
off his
wow.
big performance on the weekend, and Cooper Cronk's backing him up.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, had to find a
Cooper will be in
replacement.
a good mood. QRL board member after that defeat
Ooh,
last
yeah.
night.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's doing me a solid because
Is he?
Finucane had to pull out
Oh,
because of COVID,
Yeah.
so I can't bag him.
Yeah,
but I
fair
will.
enough.
All right, we'll see you tonight. We'll read your brilliant copy in the Daily Telegraph, and we'll see everyone next week on the Monday Scrum.